Good day. In this one, we're going to talk about relationships. We're going to talk about how most modern relationships can create these illusions, these cognitive dissonances that we exist inside of. And yeah, make sure you stick around to the end because we're going to tie it all together and help you realize how relationships can actually help you find yourself, your true self. Stick around to the end. Love you. Thank you for watching. When it comes to relationships, we gotta ask ourselves, what are we looking for? We looking for love, we looking for attention, and we're looking for meaning. So how can looking for these things that are very natural to our existence, that are fundamental needs for human beings, create these illusions, these cognitive dissonances where we end up kind of hurting ourselves and hurting each other inside of our relationships? When we seek love outside of ourselves, that implies that you don't have love or exist in love right now just as you are. When we seek connection or attention outside of ourselves, it implies that you're not fully connected or you're not fully seen as you are here and now. And when you seek meaning in a relationship, anything outside of yourself, because relationships just aren't only with people, right? We'll mainly talk about relationships with people, but really if you seek meaning in a relationship with anything, person, place, or thing outside of yourself, you're implying to yourself that you as you are now is without some type of inherent meaning. And the cause of most of disillusionment is because, unfortunately, people don't realize how deeply connected they are with everything, with their whole environment, themselves. It's hard for people to see how one they are with this whole experience that we're all a part of. To help realize this, it helps to try to understand that we are vibrational beings. Matter is just vibrating particles. It wouldn't be physical if it wasn't vibrating. If the electrons weren't vibrating in the atom, you wouldn't be able to feel your physical environment. Thoughts are a lighter form of that energy. It's a vibrating frequency. Thought waves and thought patterns are an extension of that same energy in vibrations. And feelings are also vibrations similar to thought, but maybe even a little bit more subtle, a little bit more fleeting. Is all that same energy vibrating on different frequencies and different densities. So really, our experience is just vibrating energy, bouncing off of itself. All energy in the universe comes from the same place, can't be created or destroyed. It can only be transferred. Isaac Newton taught us this. There's a bunch of gurus and light beings that'll tell you the same thing, or you can feel it for yourself. But a lot of people have come to this actualization. Now, what are we talking about when we talk about love, the L word? What love really is just the container for all these vibrations to happen, to occur. Love is the baseline to your existence. It is what holds all of this. It is unconditional, meaning it does not judge any of the vibrations that it holds, that it encompasses. Think about it as a maternal force, you know what I'm saying? Like the unconditional love that a mother would have for her child. It is like a big hug from the universe, for real, for real. Love is just as peaceful as the complete absence of those vibrations. It's the space for all those vibrations, but it is also just as chaotic as all the vibrations in the universe combined happening at once, because it encompasses all those vibrations. So you really can't judge as one thing or the other, because anything in this physical, mental, emotional experience needs love to encapsulate it. It needs love to exist. So when we seek love in something outside of ourselves, we can gain love, from something outside of our experience, you're implying that love isn't already the container, that love isn't already holding you. You're implying that love isn't the baseline of your existence. And not only are you implying that you're separate from the container, you're implying that you're separate from all the vibrations that the container holds. So with this knowing, you know that everyone and everything is deserving of receiving love, because it's the basis of who you are. Not only are you deserving of love, but you deserve to embody any of the vibrations that exist within love. You deserve to attract in the vibration which you love, which you encapsulate, which you define as, the drop in the love ocean that you tie to your identity. You're deserving of this because it's who you are and it's why you're here. You're here just to experience it, to dance with it, to recognize it, and all of the vibrations that exist within it. Now, every human being is born with a set of trauma, a set of karma that would have you believe that you are separate from that fundamental state of being, from that unconditional love, and from all of the vibrations that are happening inside of it. You really aren't separate from any person, place, or thing that is encapsulated within love, and you aren't separate from love itself. A lot of people will take the trauma initially as a bad thing, and it's obvious to see that why, it was keeping you back from love, but it's really the opposite of that. Trauma is actually essential to love because it gives you the perspective that you need to be able to experience love on the physical plane. The physical plane, you needed to see yourself as separate from your environment to be able to survive. You know what I'm saying? Once you do see it, though, you'll learn how to appreciate it all, especially the trauma, because it's what got you to the realization. You know what I'm saying? So we know we're all love. We know it's all love. It's all part of the experience. But it does take practice to get there, to actualize it, to make it a knowing, a gnosis. So how can you use your relationships to help guide you there? First, you have to recognize that your relationships are mirrors. When you receive feedback in your relationship, acknowledge the way you're experiencing it. the way that you're internally processing it and experiencing it. Every time we judge something outside of us, good or bad, that judgment is actually going on within us. All those emotions are being processed inside of us. And when you're judging something on the outside from within, it creates that illusion that it is separate from yourself. That's where you get the illusions and the cognitive dissonances, because before this, we actualized that everything is love, everything is connected. But when you make those survival-based judgments, either physical or of your ego, in a relationship, a conversation, or a relationship with your environment, you're making the implication that you are separate from it, that it's not something that's happening as a part of yourself, a part of your experience. So instead of judging things that come up in your relationships, instead of judging the feelings that come up, use them as messengers. These are what people call triggers. Triggers can bring up, again, positive or negative emotions. They're really just here to show you how deeply connected you are to your environment. Instead of attaching meaning to that initial judgment, instead of attaching to that initial feeling, good or bad, that's gonna kind of further separate it from a part of yourself, just give it space. Give it space, give it a little bit of attention, give it a little bit of light, and then ask yourself why. Why am I responding to A trigger in B response? Practicing this mindfulness is the basis of self-love, is the start of your self-love journey, because now you're extending that same unconditional love that holds everything, and you're giving it to your experience. You're allowing yourself that unconditional love to give your emotions, your triggers, space to work themselves out. By giving yourself the space to search your emotions without judgment, it's very important that you don't judge or attach to anything that comes up. You'll start to put some light on those traumas that were creating the illusion of the separation. Those traumas that are kind of hiding in the shadows and hiding in the dark that don't really want to be seen. You'll start to realize a lot of these traumas weren't yours to begin with. You needed them to reach love, so you'll learn to love the trauma itself. By putting light on the traumas, you'll start to see that a lot of it didn't really originate with you as you see yourself now. You needed it, and you'll learn to love the trauma because it gets you to where you will be. But you'll see that a lot of it is just passed down limiting beliefs that someone told you, friend, family, enemy, neighbor, lover, ex-lover, whatever. A lot of it was these passed down stories that have been told for generations and generations. This is where we get like generational trauma and all these different things. A lot of it is just stories that people were using for survival at one time, making the environment separate from themselves so that they could survive, or some shadows that were projected onto people so that people could protect their ego. Once you allow yourself to hold the trauma body, to hold that wounded self that you are identified with a non-judgmental lens, you're going to naturally learn to love this part of yourself unconditionally because it's just who you are, baseline. And once you learn to love yourself unconditionally, it spreads to everyone else. Just like we once thought the trauma was negative, once you learn to love yourself, you appreciate the trauma. You realize that everyone that is here and everyone before you was really just trying the best that they could with what they have. And holding this knowing allows you to love everything, place, person in your environment unconditionally, the same way that you've learned to love yourself, because you'll see how deeply interconnected it all is and how it all played a part to bring you here and make you you. So by loving yourself unconditionally and healing your trauma first, you actually help heal the world, and you help heal the world's collected trauma. And your relationships will no longer be a space to play out these old roles and to project insecurities onto yourself and to other people, or to feel in a place of lack or have unrequited feelings that you were once separating yourself from. You realize and actualize that because we are all connected at source, that all the vibrations in love already have its own relationship. Relationships are no longer a thing to fight for and control. They're more a thing now to be explored and appreciated, because you see that these relationships have always been there. You know, that everything here has an inherent meaning, and since it's here, it already has a relationship, and it's all being held together by love. Now that you reach the self-actualization, now that you see the container and all the vibrations within it, now you can explore those vibrations deeply, infinitely, and you'll appreciate it all. You'll start to see not just things as black as white and me as you, but you really do kind of get to appreciate all the nuances in between the vibrations that aren't really separate from your experience or anyone else's. And you'll do it all without judgment. You'll do it all without judgment, and you'll learn to spread the unconditional love throughout all the vibrations, really just seeing it color. So with that, try not to make it too long. Try to make this digestible so people can follow through with it. But it's all love. It's all love, and I love you. Peace.